Now, this last set of factoring topics in this factoring module is what we call difference of two squares. Alright, so there's going to be a pattern to this, but initially we're going to start out by doing exactly how we just did the X box factoring. Now, what do you notice the difference between these problems and the ones we just got done doing?
There's only two.
There's only two terms. What do we call a polynomial of two terms? It's a binomial. The previous ones had three terms, or a trinomial. So one of the things you should key into is, if it has two terms, we're going to have potentially this special type of factoring. Now, so that maybe we can see the pattern, I'm going to do X box first, because I want you to understand a couple things as we work through this. So remember, we had ax squared plus bx plus c. So as I look at number 1, what's our a? 9. And what is our c?
16, negative 16.
It is negative 16. So 9 times negative 16 is negative 144. And what's our b value? No, our a was 9. Our c was negative 16. So the numbers that are there are already used. So what's our b?
X?
No. Remember, b is your coefficient in front of your x. So if there is no x value, right? We have an x squared and we have a constant. What is the value for b that would make our x go away?
0.
It'd have to be 0, right? Because if it was 1, we'd have x. If it was 2 or 3, we'd see that number. So the only number you could put in front of x to make it go completely away would be 0. So our b is 0. So we are multiplying to a negative 144, so that means one of my terms has to be negative.
And the other one has to be positive.
So what multiplies to negative 144 and adds to 0?
12.
12 and 12. So we put this into our box, and I get 9x squared there. I get negative 16 here, and then we get negative 12x and 12x. Now I do the same thing. We look for our GCF. And negative 12x and negative 16 have what in common?
Negative.
Negative 4.
So, yeah.
And then 9x squared and 12x have what in common?
Positive.
A positive 3x. And then negative 12x and 9x squared have
Negative 3.
just a 3x.
Yeah. Oh, wait, 3x. I was looking at it real quick.
And then 12x and negative 16 have what in common? 4. So then our factored answer would be 3x minus 4 times 3x plus 4. So let's look at number 2 now. So on this one, what's our a? 1. What's our c? So 1 times negative 25 is a negative 25. And our b, again, is 0. So what multiplies to a negative 25 and adds to 0? Negative 5 and 5. Good. So again, what does negative 5x and negative 25 have in common?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. X squared and 5x?
1.
1. And then just x. So we just put it as x instead of 1x. X squared and negative 5x? X. And 5x and negative 25? 5. So then our factors would be x minus 5 and x plus 5. So now let's take a look at those two solutions. What do you notice about those factors? So our answer for factors for the first one are 3x minus 4 and 3x plus 4. And our answer for the second one was x minus 5 and x plus 5. What pattern do you see between those two?
Is it, they both have a negative. See, there's a 3 there, and 4, and then on the other side.
Yeah, if you look at the factors, 3x, 3x, 4, 4, x, x, 5, 5. So the factors, our terms are exactly the same. The only change is what? One's negative, one's positive. One's negative, one's positive. So as you look at this, we kind of have this pattern that's up here. A squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b. So if you can figure out what squares give you the first term, what squares give you the second term, you don't have to necessarily do this x box. Now the x box does work every single time, but a lot of you are going to find it's a lot quicker to do it in this other method. So as I look at number 3, what squares to give you 4x squared? So what would go in that set of parentheses? 4x squared, so 4 squared is 16, so that doesn't work. So 2, let's deal with the numbers. So 2 squared is 4, and then I want x squared, so what would I have to square to get x squared?
You by 1? Or because, oh, just that, right?
Just x, right? X squared is x squared. So 2x squared is 4x squared, right? Now let's look at our second one. What would I square to get 36? Yeah, that one's a little simpler. It's just 6. So then we would say our solution is 2x and 6 and 2x and 6. We'd make one positive, one negative. Now, we do have an issue here. If we were asked to factor this completely, we would be wrong here. What is the very first thing we should always check for? Is there a GCF? And is there a GCF between 4x squared and negative 36? Yes. So let's start over with our GCF. Now, what is the GCF between 4x squared and negative 36? A 4. So I can pull out a 4. And we get x squared minus 9. Now we ask those same questions. What squares to give you x squared? X. And what squares to give us 9? 3. So then our full correct answer to this would be 4x minus 3 and x plus 3. Now last problem. So look at number 4. So we have x squared plus 100. So using that idea that we just talked about, what is that factor to? So what squares to give us x squared? X. And what squares to give us 100? 10. And then we make what? One positive, one negative. And if we're going to multiply this out, what is 10 times negative 10? Negative 100. What do we have? Yeah, we have a positive 100, right? So this is where we have to pay attention as we go back. The title of this is called the difference of two squares. So what's difference mean mathematically? We need a negative, so notice there it's positive.